So the Federal Trade Commission released its annual data book, and what that is are the compilation of all the consumer complaints that they received during 2017. And this is important because it allows us to look at different trends that exist. And one of the most interesting trends is that we found that the 20 to 29-year-olds actually were more likely to engage in a fraud. So 40% of millennials engaged in frauds. But what we also saw is that while only 18% of seniors, those over 60, engaged in these frauds, they lost more money. The seniors did. Millennials on average would lose about $400, while the seniors would lose anywhere from $600 to over $1,000 depending upon the age categories. And the older the senior was, or the older American was, the more money on average they would lose during these calls. And the other fascinating piece of data that we found is that more than 70% of the frauds were delivered by phone. So while we are still very concerned with the computer and emails and all the scams that come across through the mailbox, the way that these fraudsters are still getting into consumers' homes is by phone. And so we are constantly talking about these telemarketers. Another fascinating piece of information from this is that most of the fraud form of payment is still by wire transfer. So it is that thing we talk about all the time as being that indicator, that red flag, that warning sign of a scam is that they want you to wire money. And again, 46% of the form of payment was by wiring money. And so it still stands as true that if you are asked to wire money to someone you don't know, please hang up the phone, disconnect, don't engage in the pop-up window or whatever form the fraud is coming in, because we still see through all the consumer feedback that this is the form of payment that scam artists want. We see more seniors are reporting fraud and less are falling victim to it, but we're not sure about the millennials. Are they reporting because they were engaged in a fraud and just not reporting when they're contacted about a fraud? Or are all these reports their contact and then engaged? And that's some data that we just don't know, is if they're reporting all the frauds as well. But we certainly see more fraud reports where seniors did not engage than when they did engage in the frauds. Knowing who fraudsters are targeting, we do know that they still have a number of scams that target seniors. Are they creating new scams that target millennials? We've seen that with student loan fraud scams, but we haven't seen as many scams that target millennials. We see scams that target veterans organizations and our United States veterans. And again, there is a large, long list of those that target seniors. So I think that's something we'll be watching for to see if there are new scams that specifically target millennials, but then of course hit everyone across the board. Well, this is the first year that a different population group has certainly peaked as being the one most likely or that has fallen victim and has been the larger category to fall victim to these frauds. And I can't say that we've necessarily trend because it all of a sudden just flipped and switched in this regards. And you know, what the cause is, are they in more of a hurry? Are they less educated about frauds? Those are the things we don't know, but what we do know is that we'll concentrate more efforts on making sure that there is more awareness in that age category, and making sure that we're concentrating on parents of those students going to college, the millennial groups, and maybe how they're using their information and storing their personal information, but also that we'll continue our efforts with seniors because it's also working. So I think for all consumers, but really reinforcing with our newer consumers, our millennial age group, is the importance of checking things out ahead of time, taking a moment to stop, think before they act, question what's before them, question that phone call, question that email, know that there are those imposters out there that can represent a fake email as legitimate, that they certainly create a number of fake websites, but that there are resources out there for them to check things out, consumer protection being one of them. So get them to make that phone call, 1-800-422-7128. Get them to our website, DATCP.wi.gov. Have them read those fact sheets. And start small, what are their interest areas, and grow from there. If they're about to take a spring break trip, okay, let's go through the safety tips about securing your personal information and keeping your social media contacts very secure. They've been growing up with social media, so they know all about posting, but now let's consider the impact of the privacy implications of posting too much information, and that scam artists are out there troving for that information.